Before time immortal, the dark and stormy nights arose from creation's primordial nectar. Brought to this world as both muse and master, to deliver mortals from misery and the mundane. Welcome, lords and ladies. It's the dark and stormy nights.
Hey folks, welcome
Ladies
back.
and gentlemen,
boys and girls, welcome back.
Odin.
I'm Tier.
And we're trying a little change up, right? So we're going to start doing a little more writing episodes. It seems that, judging by the analytics, you guys enjoy these episodes a little more. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to try and give you a little more of that.
A little more story.
Right.
At least by the limits of the analytics that we can tell.
Right.
And if you feel different, comment.
Yes, by
Let
all
me
means.
know.
My DMs are open and our comment sections are open. So by all means, let us know. I mean, if we are wrong, correct us. Mm-hmm. But I like this stuff anyways. I enjoy the writing part a little bit more. I thought maybe people wanted something else, but there are other shows that do that stuff anyways.
Sure.
And we're still going to talk about those things. Just I think in
As
the
they come
context,
up,
right?
right.
In the context of us writing.
Or if somebody needs something specific addressed, we can obviously.
And it feels more organic anyways.
Right.
But yeah, feel free to write in if you do have an issue. Let us know, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. Mm-hmm. So today, you want to intro what you got for us? You want to tell us what we did or what you did, really?
Okay, so today was a little bit about, Chapter 4 is basically where we're at. And we already went through, our intro, Dale's, tour of the manor, and then we also did the pig, the villains, the first chapter, locating the pig and introduction to them. So I think that Chapter 4 is where we're at with where we kind of start meshing our two groups.
Okay,
where
I
the
like that.
protagonists and the villains kind of start becoming aware of each other.
Sure.
Okay, so do you want me to go ahead and just read the first section here?
Yeah, you ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. Jennifer watched from her steam coach, searching for any activity that might indicate she was tracking the right group. So far, the trip had been a wasted attempt. The height of the activity had been when the curtains had fluttered a few moments ago, but there had been nothing since. Unless you counted the pickpocket that had made his rounds in the park across the street and had now set his sights on an elderly man out with his grandson. The thief expertly brushed past the old man and moved on undetected, only to be tripped up by a distracted red-headed beauty with her nose in a book. The two collided in a clumsy dance that sent the book flying and knocked the man to the ground. Irritation painted his features until he got a look at the startled damsel that had thrown herself at him in apology. Her hands ran over the man's chest, checking for injuries. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so wrapped up in my story that I didn't even see you. Are you hurt, love?" His expression changed instantly. "No, of course not," he stammered, his eyes repeatedly dipping well below her face as she bent over him in concern. "Are you sure, dear? You're looking a little flustered. Did you hit your head?" Her words only raised a flush to his cheeks as he rose and brushed himself off. No, I'm fine. Please excuse me," he muttered before making his hasty getaway. The woman watched his escape with cunning green eyes that even Jennifer had underestimated only moments before. Jennifer's eyes narrowed at the woman as she scooped up her book with an unerring grace that spoke of an unshakable awareness of her surroundings. The woman easily caught up to the old man and handed over a pocketbook, which he accepted with a grateful smile. The woman brushed off his praise, patted the boy on the head, and walked off, pausing only to produce several more pocketbooks, which just as quickly disappeared into the folds of her skirt. Returning to her book, she then proceeded to cross the park, avoiding every obstacle, running child, and patch of mud without lifting her gaze once, not even when crossing the busy street. Jennifer tracked the elegant redhead as she disappeared into the very house she'd been watching for hours. With a sigh, she tapped her fingers on the clunky control of her carriage. The new information had certainly given her pause. Perhaps a little undercover work was the best option. She could waltz right in the door, pretend to be in need of their services, get a good look around, and find out for sure if they were harboring a pig. Plan decided, Jennifer slipped from her carriage and strode towards the brownstone in seek of help with a nasty, albeit imaginary, possum shifter problem. Jennifer had just crossed the street when another sight pulled her up short. Ducking behind a tree, she distractedly traced an old scar on her arm as the vaguely familiar figure approached. The woman was trailed by a short, stout man in a top hat, lugging an excessive piece of machinery. Next to her, on a leash, trotted a small, filthy pig with a helmet device that looked somewhat like a crank-powered headlamp. The woman was rather animatedly voicing her complaints at the man as she picked chunks of something from her hair. On closer inspection, both the woman and the pig absolutely covered in bits and pieces of... Were those pieces of flesh? Vampire by the smell of it. Jennifer wrinkled her nose in disgust. At least make sure I'm clear before you blow things up, Hammond. The man stroked his beard thoughtfully. Blown up is exaggerating things a bit, no? The UV device was supposed to turn them to ash before the little explosion really took hold, but we can never really predict the timing of these things, can we? No matter, a little early detonation still gets the job done, just a little faster, eh? The man nodded, satisfied with a job well done. He puffed up his chest and jogged up the steps to the manor, followed by the irritated woman. Jennifer got a good look at the filthy little creature slipping into the house before the door was slammed shut. Turning her back on the house, she made a quick escape back to her steam coach. It was the right group, but she couldn't retrieve that pig on her own. This was a job for Bob, or whatever his name was.
I like it.
Okay.
There's a couple of notes, I think, right? Nothing negative on the editing or anything like that. What I'm saying is, story-wise, I think that we come up with a couple of things. Mm-hmm. One is Meredith, I think, would notice her watching her.
Well, there's no saying that she didn't notice her watching her.
That good, you know?
Right.
And secondly, I think that we're still going to write that vampire thing, right? That mission they just came off of, is that going to be a blog post maybe? Or
it could be a blog post. It could be a hex file. Yeah, sure.
So, because I think that's going to be a great story to tell. Like, we're not going to gloss over this piece of story. It might not go in the book.
Right.
But we're not glossing over that. That's a great little piece of story.
Well, if we need to beef up the book, but you want to keep pacing.
That's true. It could be something that we add in later or something. Maybe it is a
It could be.
But yeah, I mean...
I don't know if I would, though, because this part of the story, and I know we're not fully there yet, but it's the crossroads between the heroes and the villains. It's like the first 20 minutes of a movie. It's where it really kicks off, when you the inciting incident, where you really start seeing it, where it's going.
And you're saying you don't think we should draw that out too much.
Right.
Yeah.
So you think that this should be a peripheral story that maybe we put into a blog post? Or
I think that's a great idea. It could be an extra little tidbit we put on our website. It can be one of the hex files.
Right.
I mean, it could be a backflash, but it's probably not relevant.
Yeah, it's the norm.
Yeah. Well, that means that whatever we use in it, of course, we don't want to have it be pivotal to this story later on.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But like anything in the writing process, it's much too early to really make a call.
Sure, you never know.
This is just the direction we're headed.
Right, yeah. But I like it. I like the how keen she is, and
Oh no, there's
and
good description in there. I found the characters likable.
It develops Meredith a lot,
Right.
So.
And I kind of wanted to put across the thing that while Meredith is a thief and definitely dangerous and not necessarily like a great guy, girl, that
Person.
she also does have some degree of morals, and that, robbing an old man was beyond something she was willing to do.
Right, she kept other pocketbooks, but that one...
Right,
it
exactly.
does, well, and you guys talking about that does occur to me that maybe we discuss, at some point give away what Meredith really did, or... give clues to what it was.
Yeah, I think that will come up as the story progresses.
And I didn't expect Meredith to have no knowledge of Jennifer being there. And I did do the flutter of the curtains, and yes, the possibility that she knew she was there all along is definitely there.
Right, but you don't want to write her as a straight up ninja. I mean, there is always a tendency to love your characters too much, that they're never caught off guard, that they're super powered. For them to miss every now and again, make an error, miss something,
I'm not sure.
I think they're doing that all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm speaking to Meredith being flawless. What I'm speaking to is that the adversary certainly isn't flawless in their own right. So
right, but Jennifer is the most formidable of them.
Sure, I'm not sure she's expecting what she's in for.
Right, absolutely. She just thinks that she's watching this random group of exterminators, and this is what cues her in that they're more than she expected.
Quite possibly the scenario she just witnessed was Meredith using this scenario to get closer, to get a better look. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm curious if I missed
being counter-surveilled.
Or if it just wasn't said. Was the old man poor in any way? Did he have disheveled clothing or anything?
No, I didn't really describe the old man. I just said that he was out in the park with his grandson.
Like, I wouldn't want to slow the story down, but I might add that in just to give him another tier, another reason of... Because, if it's just that he's old, I mean, if he's a rich old guy, I wouldn't care. That wouldn't bother me, as a thief.
Okay, so maybe worn clothes or something?
Yeah, if he was a working man or he was having a hard retirement or whatever, then yeah, that would, because I'm not sure where her the line exactly is for her.
Sure, we could absolutely add that in.
I don't believe she's that type of thief. I think that I feel that Meredith wouldn't feed on the average person, that she has a goal and aim, to what she does. That
Right, but if you're only robbing from the uber rich,
But
you don't have a
also-
very large pool to
it's
draw
not
from.
just who, but what. I don't think this
okay,
is
so
about...
also, though, if the man was dirt poor, no pickpocket's going to target him.
Yeah, but maybe
Unless they're that much
lower
poorer.
craftsman level. you know?
Right, yeah. Working man. Sure, we can put something
Like
in
he's
there
got
to-
some kind of work boots or some scuffed work boots.
Yeah.
Right.
Little details of that.
I mean, yeah, holy boots weren't
Or
completely uncommon.
maybe he's wearing
either.
his Sunday best, but they're patched, worn at the elbows, that kind of thing.
Sure, that's a possibility.
Yeah, not bad. See, that's what I'm saying. Is I think this brings out a few things that maybe, while the vignette was good, while it was a great piece.
Oh, it's a minor note.
It's not just that. Some of the stuff can be told later, but like the patching, yeah, you're right. Maybe the clothing we can explain now, but this leads us to other things later that we want to pay attention to.
Right.
So, as we develop, should we decide that Meredith does know that this was counter surveillance, that maybe this comes up in a conversation the next time we show Meredith with the group that we're being watched, so we know.
Right.
Or did she not notice and it doesn't get said, or does Meredith keep it to herself
And maybe
further
waits for the
investigate
next.
it?
Well,
Yeah.
that could be a thing because, she might not want to concern the group.
Right. Yeah, true, because she's being very motherly, whether they realize it or not, and they are acting like children, so that might be,
Right.
how this all goes
But
down.
if that's true and that comes out, they're going to be a little upset by that, being left out of the loop.
Well, at this point, I don't
Defenseless.
think that it's really... I don't think she really knows that it's something to be that watchful of. Right now, there's just somebody parked outside the manor,
Right, but still, holding that information back, I can see a few members take an insult at that.
Sure, yeah.
I just feel like they're less likely to mess with Meredith than anybody else on the team.
Yeah, they're probably more likely to grumble and moan about it or under
Mm-hmm.
their breath. I doubt they're going to come straight out to Meredith and say anything.
Maybe
to her
not,
face.
but maybe, Wilhelm and Hammond have a discussion that she walks in on or something.
Maybe. If anybody would go to Meredith's face on something, it would be Hammond, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's the most direct out of the...
And I
He's
think
the
the
most
other would be
reckless.
like, "Are you freaking crazy?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? She's gonna kill you." Not that she would kill him,
Right.
but she could.
Absolutely, she could.
Oh.
Yeah, so, I don't know. And I know that was a section that we didn't really discuss previously.
Now, the
But I
lamp
also-
helmet, was that on the pig?
Yes.
On the pig,
That's
yes.
awesome. I love that. I was picturing it as like some sort of back harness, but that's cool.
That one was all Loki.
Yeah, I invented this because I initially invented it to actually be used against the vampires.
Right.
That Hammond invented a UV headlamp that he cranks up. He cranks the side of it, and it lights up. And we of course, I'm going to give away the rest of the details when we write this.
Sure.
But yeah, the helmet, and I might draw it up or whatever. But yeah, and I'm not sure that Dale incredibly likes wearing this thing, but
But under the same token, I think that Dale kind of likes being part of the team.
true, and I also think Hammond is smart enough to have put several harnesses and buckles on it to keep
keep it
Dale
on,
from
sure.
getting it off. So
Now you just got me wondering about, like, pig booties. Like when you put them on cats and they walk all funny.
why would that be the next thing that occurs to you? Why is that where your
I just
mind
don't know if
went?
a pig would end up doing the same silly walk.
Oh my god.
I don't know. It's more high tech than my idea, which was to grease the pig up in like holy water and anointed oils and send it running through the vampire.
Well,
A
Yes.
greased pig would be an entertaining
I thought
thing
it
as
would be
well.
hilarious.
it was between a crank helmet or some green glowing ooze powered helmet.
Well, no, I like the technological aspect because, like I've mentioned, I believe in the last podcast, is they did have light therapy. They were experimenting with different spectrums of
I
light
think we
back
talked
then
about this in
as
one
like
setting.
healing energy or something.
And crank up power wasn't exactly lost to us. We did know that did work.
No,
you
they
could
even had
crank something.
automobiles to
Right.
some degree.
So, Yeah, I think that this is a feasible
like a
piece of
primitive
technology.
battery.
I mean, it may be slightly ridiculous, but I think that it's something that
Well, but that's what makes it funny.
it's definitely within the realm of steampunk's capability. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, well, steampunk's is 20 years ahead of where it should be. I mean, that's
Right.
just the genre.
But the aesthetic was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we have anything else? Do you like?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have anything to attack on it. There's no problems with it.
I have an image in my head of what the park looks like. I'm not sure that it's
Yeah.
super well described or anything like that, but that's something post.
We
you
can,
know,
yeah.
Well,
add
that's
in.
when we
that.
go to edit later.
That I could briefly address is something I struggle with as a reader and a writer, in that adding enough detail so you don't feel like you're floating in a void,
Yeah.
but slowing the
didn't-
story down where you're bored out of your mind.
I didn't feel like I was in a void, but I did create a picture in my head of what the park looked like that I'm not sure
Was actually described.
Even, yeah,
It wasn't described at all.
I'm not sure I was given clues.
I mean, did
to.
you even say if it was a sunny day?
I really didn't. And like
Because it
I
was in
said-
my head. I don't know
But
why.
once again,
But this is something we touched on
you know
before.
what? It
is
was
this-
to me too. It was almost like a sunny.
I think it's
spring
because the
day.
word park. You immediately
Yeah.
see the
Right,
green
and
grass.
all I said was park across the street. And then I did reference mud puddles, but that was about it.
Okay.
Okay,
Or
well then,
patches of mud. I'm sorry.
Maybe from a recent rain. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
but also-
that's common in England. I mean,
I think that you
Yeah.
get sunny because there's people out in the park, and the guy's made his
True,
rounds.
true.
He's having a
People playing.
lucrative day, so I mean that's probably why. But yeah, no, I didn't, and that's something that I actually have said is that I'm a little bit less on like the world building and the painting
Sure.
the picture. That's something you guys are a little bit better.
But a
at.
picture did form,
At.
So I wasn't lost or anything like that. But I'm wondering, do we tell more?
And
Do
I'm
we
gonna be
give more
perfectly
detail?
honest.
that's the
with
thing.
you.
Is it my imagination, or is every reader getting this? And that'd be another great place for comments, please.
You know, it should be something maybe we compare, like, because I'm imagining a park with a roundabout kind of thing, right? Where there's a circular pathway in the middle of the park and there's some sparse trees. And
yeah, I think that's purely imagination.
And a
Mine was kind of squarish,
couple of benches. Okay, so
I
we
saw
formed two different
grass
ideas of what this
benches.
park looked like.
That was it.
and it
here's
wasn't
the
even a
thing.
big one. It was like maybe a medium, like
I
city,
think it
like
was a small
area,
city
kind of
park.
residential park.
Yeah. It was like a little block
My
area.
thought, though, is really that I don't have a clue what to expect of a park back then.
Cricket.
Parks to me these days is jungle gyms and kids playing.
You know, the game with the little
But
post.
I don't know that
Turn of the
mallets.
century, like jungle gyms, were like
Dangerous?
ridiculous contraptions.
Oh, I saw an image of that on Facebook. I couldn't
Feeding
believe anyone lived through
children.
this.
Right, it's frightening. It's
It looked like it was 30 feet tall.
Are we going here with this?
Yeah,
I bet
so
sure
like
we should.
I honestly don't know that
The kids hanging 30 feet off the ground. From
Yeah, I don't know if there was a camera angle, if they went Citizen Kane, but it looked scary.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't want my kids on that.
right. So I don't know. Like maybe we can add a little bit of description in there.
I think a little, but
I
I would not go
probably didn't-
overboard. Like I said,
yeah.
like use just enough to let the reader paint the rest in
Well,
their
it's not
head.
just that, but we want to work it in, right? You're not just spitting out details or whatever
Right.
like that. It's that Meredith enjoyed the sun on her face. It's the breeze, blowing her hair. It's not just it was
That's a
breezy
good note.
and sunny.
Yeah.
It wasn't. She walked barefoot through the grass, or the kids stomped in the mud puddles. Not just straight up. There were mud puddles. There was grass, which I
Right.
have seen in some books, sadly, and that is, I think, tell not show when they're doing that.
right.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess description can be in the same camp as exposition, where you have to find a way to naturally insert it.
Right, well, that's the thing. I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily a little bit of expositing the scene, right? I mean, our show is kind of a poke at that. It was a dark and stormy night is,
Yeah.
you're telling me what it looked like. You're not showing me necessarily, but I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. You're just giving the details. Why don't we come back with the next section in a moment?
Sure.
Okay? Great.
Hey dames and knights, Loki requires attention to survive. We feed him your likes and comments, so go show some love at the Dark and Stormy K1 on Twitter, the darkandstormynights.home.blog, or you can find us at Podbean, iTunes, or Google Play Music.
Love me.
Love me.
Love.
All right, so now we're going to take a look at the second part, right?
Second section of the chapter, sure.
All right.
Okay, ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Desmond made his way through the main corridor of the House of Lords, nodding to his colleagues as he passed. He had one stop to make before he could get back to check on the progress of his men. There was an entire world out there unknowingly relying on him alone to wipe out the monsters they knew nothing about. And to do that, he needed to complete his ritual. He needed that pig. Desmond paused outside the office of the deputy speaker with a document that he was waiting on. A boy, nearly a man by all standards, sat outside the office, clearly waiting on someone inside. Desmond took a seat as well. The deputy was expecting him, so he wouldn't be kept waiting long. The boy glanced his way once, but then returned his eyes to the floor. On occasion, one of the lords would stop in with their boy in tow, giving them a glance at their future. Desmond himself remembered a time when his own father had sat him in this very corridor while he attended to some business nearby. He reached in his pocket and closed his fist around the trinket that he still carried. It was in this very hall that it was given to him all those years ago. Desmond had been left sitting on the hard seat so long that his legs had started going numb, but he didn't dare move. His father was down the way having a conversation that would have been best kept behind closed doors but could be heard clear as day. Desmond didn't dare upset the man further. He nervously tapped his foot on the polished ground and shifted in his seat again. "All will be well, young man." Desmond startled at the sudden voice and looked up to a dark-haired man dressed all in black, maybe 10 years older than himself. Unable to think of a reply, Desmond merely blinked up at the man in confusion. Seeing his confusion, the man smiled and took a seat next to Desmond. His blue eyes looked off in the distance for a moment as the voice of Desmond's father echoed down the hall. But just as quickly, he returned his attention to Desmond. Sometimes we feel like things are out of our control, like an ant among men, just waiting for something bigger and meaner to come step on us. But just because we appear to be smaller or weaker does not mean we do not have the tools to overcome. Does that make sense? Desmond had no idea what this man was trying to say to him, but he nodded obediently regardless. Based on the man's satisfied smile, it was the right response. The man nodded thoughtfully and handed Desmond a small trinket. He didn't know what it was, but he accepted it graciously. "For good luck," the man explained. "Sometimes all we need is a little faith to overcome our greatest obstacles." The man disappeared down the hall without another word, and Desmond had clung to the trinket as if he could squeeze the luck out of it. Dark times had followed those days, and Desmond had kept the trinket, not for luck, but as a symbol of what he'd overcome. "Blackwell!" Desmond's eyes jumped to the older man in front of him, and he stood hastily, thrusting the papers in front of him. He noted that the boy and whoever he'd been waiting for were now gone, and he hoped he hadn't been lost in thought for too long. The man said nothing as he shuffled through the report. Finally, after several long moments, he gave an abrupt nod, turned on a heel, and disappeared back into the room he came from. With a shake of his head, Desmond too made his escape. Upon returning, Desmond stormed into the room. His team had been hard at work while he was away, and he needed results. "Bob! Where's Bob? Someone get me Bob!" Desmond didn't pause for a response. He walked straight to his office and took his place behind the desk. His large tome sat open in front of him. Strange, he didn't remember leaving it open. His eyes had barely trailed over the page before Bob was brought through the door by Caleb. The two of them were trailed by his assistant, Jennifer. Ah, good. He could use a cup of tea. "Bob, what have you found out? Do you have the pig?" Bob stuttered, his eyes shifting from Caleb to Jennifer. He muttered something that sounded vaguely like Ronald before clearing his throat and starting again. Sir, the pig was... Well, you see, the farmer gave him away." Desmond stared, waiting for the rest of the story, the part where he produced the missing pig. Bob was quiet for a moment, and then he started again. "We checked several pigs in the city, but none of those were the pig that got away." Bob rubbed at a prominent bruise on his cheek. Caleb chimed in. "Bob had no luck finding the pig, but I did get the farmer to tell us he gave it to the team he'd called in." "Ah, that was better." "Great! Where is he? Gather the group. We'll finish the ritual now." This time it was Jennifer who stepped in. Without a cup of tea, he noted. "Sir, I located the pig with the group as the farmer said, but I believe we may need to send in a little more muscle to retrieve it." Desmond rolled his eyes. What were they thinking sending a woman in the first place? "Yes, of course. Bob, you and Caleb go retrieve the pig now. We'll complete the ritual after tea. Jennifer, you gather everything we'll need. I'll go make my own tea," he grumbled that last part as he left the office. Okay, so that's the second section there.
Okay.
And we kind of leave off with the Caleb and Bob.
What was he doing at the office again? You had paperwork, and I'm trying to remember.
At the House of Lords?
Yeah.
He was dropping off, it was just his job. He was dropping off paperwork.
Okay,
to the
this is
deputy
his...
speaker.
So he just kind of had
So it
him
was
wrapping
just
up
a
his
glimpse,
daily business.
Yeah, a glimpse into Desmond's life, a little bit of his backstory.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I caught that from the text. I wasn't sure.
From the context of it.
Yeah.
But
And then you transitioned to when he was a boy, and that caught me slightly off guard, but I enjoyed
Right.
that flashback, especially a little insight into his personality that we may not have otherwise addressed,
a little glimpse
now
of motive.
he's a little more fleshed out of a person. So he was like a boy who was looking to please.
I knew what was going on there, so I kind of took for granted the transition, but maybe, because we went over this last night and everything. But yeah, I guess maybe for some people, I guess it didn't really occur to me that they might need some kind of transition or something.
Okay, so for the 2 issues, this section of the chapter starts out with he's making through his way through the corridor of the House of Lords. He has a stop to make before he can get back to check on his men.
Right.
So like that's kind of
it sounds like it's I don't know. I thought it was like in there like looking like trying to do detective work. Like you're trying to figure out like the address or something.
I didn't have a problem with
I didn't
that.
know
I'm
if it was
saying,
his job exactly.
Yeah, I was saying that the transition between to where he goes into his backflash, maybe.
the transition, right? And that's much easier to read than it is to read aloud because the flashback is
True,
in italics.
yeah, and
you can tell that it's a change.
Then I wouldn't even have an issue then.
Yeah. So yeah, because I'm trying to visualize it now. Because you mentioned it, and then I'm like, oh,
Right. It was in this very hall that it was given to him all those years ago, and then from there it transitions to italics where he goes through the memory.
Okay, that works fine for that.
Yeah, reading it is much different than actually like hearing it aloud.
Right. Yeah, because I didn't have an issue with it last night. And brings it up, and then I forgot you said that it was in italics. So
It's just
is it italics or italics?
I say italics.
I know.
Is there like an Italian font? Like, why is it even called that?
What?
Is it an Italian font?
Yeah, like
Oh,
back in the
Lord.
block printing days,
My aunt calls Italian people Italians.
Anyway.
Everybody's tried to tell her that's not what it is, but she doesn't
no,
listen.
but when he's talking about the whole paperwork and then he's going to get back to his men, my mind is on his real agenda and not what his actual job is. So that's where it muddies it for me. Not what he's thinking, just what he's doing there. You know what I mean?
Okay, so how do you want to explain?
I'm not sure. Just
that's his because it was just
like
kind
before
of
he can knock off for work or something, like a little line.
Just
in
a
there.
slight little mention.
nodding
that
to
he's
his
actively
colleagues
working
as he
now?
passed. I mean, that doesn't paint the picture that that's his job.
I know he's there, but I'm not sure why he's there. You know what I mean? Because we've talked about it more on show and off air than we've in the story. What that he actually does for a living.
I think she does explain it. I'm just not sure
Desmond
you're
made his
satisfied
way
with it.
through the main corridor of the House of Lords, nodding to his colleagues as he passed.
Oh, okay.
He has one stop to make before he can get back to check on the progress of his men. Do you want to make changes to that?
No, I guess not. I guess it probably just it's one of those things where it hears different than it reads.
Okay.
Because you're not absorbed in it the way you would be.
And then
reading
also
it
he
from
does
print, I think.
reference. He paused outside the office of the deputy speaker with a document that he was waiting on, and then he talks about the boys being brought into the office, and he remembers when his father brought him in there. So I mean, it does kind of vaguely go over the fact that that's,
Right.
if it's his job. If you think it's not clear enough, we can definitely add to it.
Maybe if the guy's handing off paperwork, was that a superior or?
It's a superior. The deputy
Okay, if he could
speaker.
like request something of him, like I need this done or something. You know what I mean? Like just make sure to submit this form or
right,
something.
but he doesn't actually see the speaker until the end of the scene.
Right. No, I get that, but then I don't know. Maybe that paints it a little more because he just passed Cogley's. It's very peripheral.
Okay,
you know?
so-
Well, it'd almost be funny if he treats Desmond the way Desmond treats Jennifer. Fetch me a tea, won't you?
Oh my God.
Just
I don't know how that would fly.
well, I mean, if it's a superior, what's he going to do about
And
it?
I do like some of the things that I don't know if anyone would pick up on, but they should. That he was left for hours alone in an office like this. So he's not used to getting a lot of attention. He spent a lot of time alone, you know.
Right, a few insights into Desmond's soul.
Right. He's hanging on this guy's word. He's looking to please. He's trying to give him the right answer. You know, I mean, so
Okay.
there's certain behavioral things that feeds in, which I thought was nice.
Right. And then that,
Okay, so you know what we could do, though, is we could say Desmond paused outside the office of the deputy speaker, and as opposed to saying with a document that he was waiting on, we could say with the work that the speaker, I don't know, something about, whatever the speaker
I don't
had,
honestly-
whatever the speaker had asked of him,
yeah, I'm not honestly.
Yeah, that honestly would totally change.
Just changing the wording from the document he was waiting on to
Yeah, because it makes it sound like he's requesting something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. You're trying to really point out that he is inferior to the person he's talking with.
Well,
waiting on. He was left waiting.
Yeah.
I just felt like, it's like being at the DMV and making an address request or something.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure he was there in a professional capacity. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it in that
I do
regard,
have a
I guess.
tendency to assume that readers will fill in the blanks with some stuff. I don't spell out
I think they
everything
will.
to a T.
Although I wouldn't mind, again, a very similar thing, and not to be hypercritical, and feel free to attack my crap, but just like, talking a little bit about all the hardwood surfaces or something, just a little reference
A
to the
little more
interior.
description of where they're at.
Okay, you can absolutely do that. I don't have a freaking clue what the House of Lords looks like.
Well, I mean...
Or I think that they actually meet in one of the famous, or met. Are they still around? I think they are still around. In a
No, I wasn't saying like a
completely
lot of detail, just like a
capacity.
throwaway
Right,
comment
the
about
cold
it.
stone walls, the marble floors, the wood.
Right, I think that's
Or the dim
probably-
lighting or something.
I was picturing almost like the courthouse.
Right, generic old,
Right.
ornate building.
Although at the time it probably wasn't so old.
I'm sure we could Google image, but I'm not even that interested. I'm just saying like any throwaway comment just to give you an
I
interior.
was more excited to get to the second half, right? The dealing with Jennifer and Bob and Caleb and stuff.
You mean after he got back?
Yeah.
So you're saying aside from his flashback and his job, yeah, that was just kind of a little glimpse into making the character
No, and I
more
get it,
real.
and it is character building, and I can see. I don't know. The only thing I could think of is that maybe making it more appropriate that piece is there. Does it add to the rest of the story overall? Is he requesting something?
Okay, and that's why I included it, is because I do feel like it's required to the rest of the story, and we hadn't really plugged
I'm
it
not
in
saying
anywhere.
that it's not, but is it required there? Is that a good place for it? What is he doing that it needs to go in this spot?
That is a good question. I'm curious. Like I didn't really think about it, but yeah, what does
I
this
just
part of the
figured it
chapter
was a
add to the
place where
story?
he was held up while the rest of his team was working.
So
Okay.
this is why he's
So-
running late.
Okay.
Or okay.
I mean,
That's
not
fine.
that he's going to do the legwork himself, but I mean, this is where Desmond is. Like, he's, got
Right,
this
not
whole
that
other
anybody-
life.
Although-
his minions are doing the work.
Right.
If his superior requested something of him, that would also help stall him for time.
I don't know. If
So
you
maybe-
guys don't want it there, I'm happy to cut it.
No.
I'm
thinking
we're just analyzing
maybe a
it.
mention of him thinking about how he's got to get back to get things done with the crew or
Did I-
something like that.
This
I
is
think
our new
that's
format.
literally, you guys skipped the whole beginning of this chapter.
Did we?
Yes.
I'm thinking that. I don't know.
So he's talking about, okay, he makes his way through the corridor, nodding to his colleagues. He has one stop to make before he can get back to check on the progress of his men. There's an entire world out there relying on him.
No.
Oh yeah, that I
To
also
do
wanted
that,
to make a note
he
of.
needs to
I love
complete his
that.
ritual. He needs the pay.
I'm not saying that. Right, you mentioned it, but I'm saying like something I mentioned to his impatience with it, or like
Yeah, some
You know what I'm
internal angst would
right.
be great.
I get that you mentioned it. I'm just saying, some kind of impatience, like I
Okay.
want to get this done.
Like almost like his day job is above it.
Okay, so how about
below
when
his
he's,
station?
when he's
Yeah.
when he's paused and he can't go in the office because he's already meeting with somebody? So I put Desmond takes a seat as well. The deputy's expecting him, so he shouldn't be kept waiting long. So like we could put that there, some sort of frustration at the fact
Yes.
that he's not being met at the point that he was supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is some
Okay.
kind of because I feel like that's who he is. He thinks he's better than he is.
Well, yeah, he's Lord Desmond Blackwell. This
Right.
guy might be technically superior, but I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, man. Just because he's an old coot or something, I don't know what you would call him. But, the old prune is only
Okay.
above me because he's older.
So
The
deputy was expecting him. He'd better not be left waiting long.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah, some.
He had work to do.
Yes, I have affairs to attend to.
However, in the beginning, when you had said that the world is depending on him, that was also a good behavioral note.
No,
You know,
it's fantastic.
Because, originally it was just like a unilateral decision on his that he's going to remake the world as it should
Right,
be.
yeah.
Now it's this destiny that's thrust on him.
It's a very.
He thinks so much of himself that who else could save the world but me?
Yeah,
It's a
that's
very
what I was seeing
insightful
with that.
phrase.
It was arrogance.
Right, it's a very insightful phrase. It really gets that one little piece gives me a great look at his character.
Yeah, so instead of has this disdain with the current state of the world's screwed up, and who but him could fix
In
it?
fact, that's
the
what-
responsibility weighing on him.
That's what illustrates more to me that he would be impatient with everything else. That I have real work to do. I have world saving to do.
And how many people have actually felt like that? I mean, like, as a writer, you go to work, you punch the clock, you do what you got to do, but you want to get home because you have other interests, you have other hobbies, you have things that you define yourself by, and it's not the desk at work.
I don't have time to save all these lives. I have a paragraph to write.
Right.
But no, I mean, seriously, I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that, and I think it's interesting if even as a political figure who has a duty to the kingdom, you know, and the land that he represents, or whatever, however they do that, the Shire, I don't know, but I don't really understand it, but you know what I'm saying?
Okay. But the second part, I don't really have too much of a problem with.
No, not at all.
I think that was really good. So I think it all ties up really well. Yeah, I just felt like
the second part.
I just felt like maybe his frustration wasn't evident enough.
So I
maybe.
changed it a little bit, and maybe it's not as much as you're looking for, but we can always polish it more as well. So I put Desmond took a seat as well. The deputy was expecting him. He'd better not be left waiting long. He had more important things to attend to.
Yeah.
So something vaguely to that extent.
And like we said before, this is the rough draft, so
right.
I'm sure as we go back through and we're going to...
We'll clean up the wording because that's terrible. But yeah.
No, I think it works fine.
Well, unless we get comments the otherwise, this is our format. So there's going to be a lot more time to tear apart everybody's.
Right, yeah.
And I'm next.
So, oh my God. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think I have to definitely slim down my wordiness. But...
No, I mean, we can always polish things, you know, as we go, like we are doing right now, you know. It is what it is.
No, but I think the rest of it's very insightful. I think that we really get a good look at Desmond for who he is, and I like that Jennifer keeps guiding him back to the...
Well, at this point, the only thing that she's really told him is that, you know, I saw this team, I confirmed this is true, I can't get this pig myself.
Oh, and then she's like, send in Bob.
Yeah.
Well, send in...
Well, there is
she doesn't refer to Bob and Caleb. What she says is, we're going to need more muscle to get them. And Desmond brushes it off like, of course, because we sent a woman in the first place.
Yeah. His misogyny shows through.
Right.
Yeah.
So right. Yeah. So that's where we're at this point.
You know,
with section 2 of this chapter.
I thought I would dislike community writing because. As a writer,
I'm sure when you're under the gun, you will dislike it.
Oh yeah, I get it. No. I'm not talking about the criticism aspect, and of course I will. That's why you hate editors. But what I was saying is that as a writer, you're God. You have this view of how everything is, what the landscape looks like, who these people are.
Huh.
And then when you hear someone else's perspective, it's like, no, you're intruding upon who this person really is. You don't know this person. And I don't know. We haven't really wrote enough that I feel that I know all these people. So when you introduce a few concepts, I'm actually pretty happy with the direction that they're developing.
We just made it strangely apt that this is a pantheon.
What?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So.
Well, I mean, I feel like the nice thing about our group is that we all have different strengths, you know, like whereas Odin is big on structure and, you know, the formatting of the book and everything.
I didn't think I was, but okay.
Oh yeah, no, like that's what you're always chiming in with is structure and where the story needs to go and, you know, like things like that. And then Loki is like such a huge like scenery person and the world building and the creativity, you know, like that kind of thing. And then me, I just like words, you know. So like I feel like that between the three of us, we really do kind of contribute. And I think that even after the book is put together, and we keep saying, this is the rough draft, but I think that as each of us go through it, it's really going to add layers.
To be honest, you're really good at moving a story in a direction.
Yeah.
And
it feels a little naturalistic.
I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at moving a story in a direction. I'm like, I know we got to go there. I have no idea how to get there.
Yeah.
Like I feel dialogue heavy, and I never like my dialogue.
Yeah.
Oh, I think your dialogue's been great, and
really?
I think that you're great at describing things as well. Whereas I do tend to back off of the scenery. I'll describe interactions between characters, but scenery is... I'm a character-heavy kind of writer.
Yeah.
So I think that the three of us coming together and going through each other's work and polishing our pieces, you know, the pieces where we fit in the best, I think that it's going to build a fantastic story.
I thought this would be irritating, but I think I feel like I'm growing a little. You know, from other perspectives and other comments like this, I think it's been helpful.
Well, I guess let's see how it keeps going. We have one more section of this to do, right?
Yep.
So let's take our break.
Well, technically 2 smaller sections, but yes.
All right, let's take our break, and we'll come back with those.
Meanwhile, deep within the depths of Castle Numbskull, our intrepid heroes explore the idea of being entertaining for once. Back to the action.
What was it? Okay, so Tier's going to break down this last section for us. It's what, 2 parts you're putting together?
Yeah, just 2 little. There's a chapter break in there. 2 little sections.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right. Nerves tickled Ron's stomach as he eyed the seemingly harmless brownstone. If Jennifer hadn't been willing to go in, it couldn't be all that harmless. That woman was scary. Here's the plan, Bob. You go around front. I'll come in from the back. We'll sneak in, swipe the pig, and Bob's your uncle. You ready? This is your chance to show Blackwell you're the best right hand yet. Caleb slapped a meaty hand onto his shoulder to cap off his pep talk. Ron nodded distractedly, trying to scour up an internal pep talk of his own. How hard could it be to snatch a pig? Ron gave Caleb a determined nod and headed for the front door. Caleb waited as the poor sap made his way to the door before he snuck around the back of the manor. He peeked around the corner, seeing nothing but an empty yard and a shed set a bit back from the house. Pulling his lock-picking tool from his pocket, Caleb bent to put his skill to work. The lock released within moments, and Caleb eased the door open to make his silent entrance. From his position at the threshold, he could see straight through the front door. He got no more than a glance of Bob holding the pig before an explosion shook the ground. Caleb hit the deck, landing in the large bushes next to the door as wooden machinery blew through the house where he'd just been standing. Chaos ensued as a stout man went running from the shed, shouting his excuses as he clambered into the house, his clothes leaving a trail of smoke in his wake. Several more voices yelled over each other at once, and Caleb managed to look through the door to the front of the house, where Bob had dropped the pig in favor of holding his now bleeding stomach. A woman in dark leather approached him cautiously. Sorry about that. We'll totally knock 10% off your extermination. Why don't you come on in and we'll have a look? Bob's eyes widened in fear. No, I'm good. Really, I must be going. Bob made a hasty exit, and Caleb darted back the way he came to meet him at the coach. Boss was not going to be happy. Desmond had just returned to his desk when Bob and Caleb entered the office. Once again, Jennifer followed, and it didn't take Desmond long to notice they had no pig in hand. What good are minions if you can't even manage to fetch a simple pig, he demanded. Bob was slowly wilting in his chair, so Caleb stepped up to answer. You see, boss, we had just gotten into the house. Bob here had the pig in his hands, when there was a bit of an explosion. Bob drops the pig, got blown up a bit, and then we take off before we get caught. Desmond's eyes narrow in on Bob. Dropped the pig? Caleb shrugged. That's how it went down, boss. Jennifer stepped up closer to Desmond. Sir, there may be a better way to handle the issue of this little team in the way. Perhaps you can check the book for something a little stronger? Something that could perhaps lure and trap the ones in our way? Desmond frowned down at the book. I suppose I can find something that could handle one little team. He reached for the pages, attempting to flip through, when Jennifer's hand flattened the page, holding it down. Perhaps something that can do the legwork for you is in order. Again, Desmond reached for the pages, but Jennifer interrupted again. Something that could seduce the pig from their hands and really wrap this up for you? Her fingers dragged over the page as Desmond focused on his work again. Demonic eyes set in a seductive face stared back at him, her body both beautiful and terrifying. Joragumo, Desmond murmured. Yes, that's just the thing we need, sir. A fantastic idea, Jennifer praised. Desmond nodded. Yes, of course it is. As always, I have to do everything myself. He rose from his seat and handed the book to Jennifer. Get the summoning spell set up in the parlor. I'll grab my robes and write up the contract. By the time Desmond met up in the parlor, everything was set up and Jennifer was at his side ready to assist. Desmond read through the spell and then glanced at the circle. It was exactly right except for one key element. His eyes flicked over the room before they landed on the slouching figure to his right. Bob, you're in the wrong spot. Desmond pointed to the center of the circle, and Bob stared nervously. Come on now, we don't have all night. A very pale Bob made his way into the circle as the chanting began. He almost seemed to sway to the words as the spell reached its peak. Desmond began to worry that his right hand wouldn't make it through the spell, but Bob pulled through. Desmond pulled the binding contract out of his robes as the portal tore open. Bob suddenly perked up, gaining more awareness as his surroundings changed. He took a quick step back, but not quick enough. Grotesque, long, spindly legs came through the portal, stretching out within the confines of the circle. The portal emitted a light where it tore through the fabric of the world, blocking out the body on the other side, but the legs caught their prey with an impeccable accuracy, quickly cutting off Bob's screams until they were nothing more than a faint echo ringing in their ears.
I dig it. I don't know. I got some good imagery on how Bob's getting torn apart right there.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more. Is like the other half of that when it picks up when that chapter starts again. You know what I mean?
Bob, you're in the wrong spot. That's
like he pulled out a contract. He didn't seem to do anything with it at this stage. So,
well, I mean, it's not even through yet.
Right. So there's more to what's going on.
Right.
However, you had commented that you didn't think you were the funnier one in the group, and I think that her Jennifer's manipulation of Blackwell, despite his feelings, was so ham-fisted. It was worthy of Spaceballs.
Yes, it was brilliant.
Because that would never happen in reality. That is a comedy. Because, dear God, who could not see through that?
Oh, and then the instant narcissistic.
Right, I have to do everything myself.
Or who was it, Meredith or whatever, with the 10% off?
Oh, was that?
That was Zara.
Zara, yeah. That was beautiful. I was just about to make mention of that. Yeah.
That's a lawsuit. What are you
great.
talking about, 10%?
It's great. It's great. I think we have to. I mean, there's a few details we'll throw in later, but that's all editing stuff.
Yeah,
Nothing.
I wasn't sure if you wanted Bob's demise to be a little bit more gory. I
don't feel it's done. I mean, in my head, there's pointy pincher-like legs. Dig into his flesh, rake it off, stretch it out, and he just explodes in a gush of blood. Like an Hellraiser.
Is it best left to your imagination, though?
Yeah, it may or may not be. I mean, because the next time we see, said destroyer,
Right, she'll be at a Shifters Anonymous meeting.
I don't think we even need to tell anything more.
So if
it's
you
all
want
in your
more...
head.
Well, no, not in this chapter. I'm saying when the chapter picks up, again, in like 2 or more chapters.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is by the time we see
Chapter 5,
this character again,
Karen's
she's
showing
already
up
doing
at
something.
Meetings.
Well, I mean, we could, but I think it's amusing, the notion of the next Bob
Now,
just being covered in the spray of blood. Everyone else gets missed, but the new Bob.
Yeah, we did discuss
that's
the
how
idea
he gets elected.
that there's a spray of blood to either
It's
side.
just everywhere, and it just like hoses one dude down.
I think that could be told in Backlash, maybe.
Yeah,
a little bit, Yeah, I don't want to repeat performance of that one.
Well, in fact,
I'm still cleaning blood out of
that's
places.
kind of great. If all the horror shows from the perspective of the new Bob.
So, how would that work?
Well, instead of like third person, it's more in his head. It's more of his internal thoughts. Like he's seeing this.
You could do it like I did.
So it's all the more.
So
horrific.
the beginning of the part where Caleb and Bob or Ron are off to get the pig, where I put nerves trickled Ron's stomach because he had the seemingly, like you can do it still third person, but it's from his his view almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that some of it needs to be told. I think some things
it's
are
not
fun,
necessary. I just thought it might be humorous
or funny.
Oh, I think there will be plenty of time to pull in more Bobs and screw up more.
But I like your Alas Poor Ronald. I think it would be funny.
Oh, yeah, that was my idea for the name of the episode.
Well, okay, that's not bad. But I also thought, though, that all this time everybody's calling him Bob. And what if those are the last words he hears? Or Alas Poor Ronald? Or something like that. Where they did know his name. They're being dicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's insult to injury.
If anyone's going to say it's Caleb.
Maybe.
But even that's being a dick because that's a Shakespeare reference. And I
don't know.
But, now the other thing, of course, that may be an issue is we are all writing Caleb in a different voice. And
was he? I was trying to mimic your voice.
We are all, I think we all are close in our own ways.
Because Caleb,
we are all,
he's
of course,
Cockney, but he's smart. He's streetwise.
I'm not saying that. Well, I think we all have the same vision of Caleb. I think we write him slightly dialectually different.
We might.
But feel free to polish, because I can't write accents.
I think that what's going to happen is maybe come the editing process, one of us will have to pick up Caleb.
We'll be like, he wouldn't say it like that.
And well, I'm just saying maybe you go through and look for Caleb, and it's like
Control F.
I promise you, I was trying to mimic the way that you guys made him talk.
I didn't have a problem.
No, yeah, I don't have a problem with the way you do it, or you do it, or I do it, or anything. I don't have a problem with whoever does it. I think we all have a slightly different idea of how somebody...
Yeah, somebody will have to go through and smooth it out.
Every Cockney I've ever heard is almost like marble mouthed. You know, like I don't like you can't it's a slew of
they need to
words
be able
that
to
make no
understand what we're
sense
saying.
together.
Well, you don't want to
You
go
know?
that far because there are plenty of people in England who wouldn't even understand it.
Oh, I get that. I'm just saying though that is whereas Caleb falls, and I do think maybe he is smarter than we're giving him credit for, especially with some of the things we've discussed.
Right.
So no, I think that's really funny. I think what you put together there was a lot of great insights into these characters or what have you. That's why I thought the last poor Ronald thing that you pointed out though would be funny is what a dick thing to say.
Oh no, I was totally thinking of an episode, but if you want to make that a title card thing where like somebody says something and then you have a title, that's cool too.
So
We could name the chapter.
yeah, we could name the chapter that, and then and so this episode of the show. So
Right.
I don't mind either way. I don't know. We'll probably really do it, but
I mean, we could even put
Although
it
if
as
you
a little...
actually name the chapter that in the book, you know he's fated to die.
yeah, that's true.
It's a little heavy
Yeah.
foreshadowing.
Well, you know what?
It's fine for
Truth be told, we could just put it as a little note at the end of the chapter. You know, he dies, and then just the last words are like enter a line, and then alas, poor Ronald.
Right. So, yeah, I know. There's a lot of funny moments.
I don't know. I feel like my humor is more subtle.
Well, what I'm concerned about is I think all of our humor is quite dark. So,
My humor's definitely dark.
Well, we see this as comedic. Some people might be like, "What is wrong with these people?" So, but no, I thought that was funny. I mean, I've imagined this. I see some of the stuff like movie style, right? We watch this. The piece of wood flies through the house and nails him, and
I am curious though because we do have a small but growing listenership in various places. Around the world, and I do wonder how that translates, especially to those that this isn't even a second language. That this isn't even their primary language.
Right.
How that translates?
The humor, let alone the story or the concept, the setting.
I see.
Yeah, currently the majority of our listeners are here in America. However, we do have a scattering across Europe right now, and even Japan,
which is super exciting. But I always assumed that other countries are a little bit more bilingual than we are because
no, that's true.
It's terrible, but
that's just the nature of trade and close borders with other countries.
Well, if you guys are listening from outside of America, comment. Let us know, how does our comedy translate? I mean, how do we come across? Is this too dark, or is it funny? I don't know. I like to think we're entertaining. Of course, I always like to think I'm entertaining, but.
Yeah, I'm not the funny one.
If it's purely entertaining, I don't see our listenership being what it is. I honestly think that we're also a little instructive, or at least commiserate in the same issues that others are having.
Okay, well, not to cut you off there, where are we going from here? What is the next thing?
Okay, so next thing, we're on Chapter 5.
And that's Odin?
That is Odin's chapter, Shifters Anonymous. We introduce the new shifter coming in, Karen, and she keeps trying to become buddy-buddy with Wilhelm, who is kind of maybe not really into her advances. And so then we kind of end with Wilhelm researching into some missing shifters.
Do you feel like you have a good grasp on Karen's voice?
I think I hear it.
Yeah.
But I won't know until I really get writing. Because what I have now may not be what it ends up being.
Do you think she's going to portray herself as a were-spider?
No, that would be too on the nose.
She's going to the Shifters Anonymous meetings.
I don't think that you necessarily need to tell people
That's what
kind
I'm
of
thinking.
shifter
I think
you
she's
are
going to
in
play
the
a
Shifters
coy.
Anonymous.
I don't think they're all going to want to disclose
she's
what
a
they become.
were-fish.
God.
What?
He said koi.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, I had to. But, okay. All right, so is she going to say anything? Is she going to let on? You're not letting us know the detail? What is it?
I honestly don't know until the writing's flowing out of me. I had started the chapter just talking about his crush, and I didn't.
Are you going to introduce that idea? Like he's upset about that, or?
Well, that's going to be how he becomes
Are you going
aware.
to introduce Philip?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because it's going to be a bit of a montage. He's going to go back to Where's Anonymous a few times because you have to see how this all unfolds.
Right. I like the way she did it. You could have a few scenes all in the same chapter and piece it all together.
The only thing that this will do, though, there'll be a bit of time lapse. So, a couple days, a couple weeks might even go by. Because, typically, your
think
AAs
that's
and all
fine.
that. People
It depends.
people tend to go once a week, maybe 3 times a week.
It depends.
You know,
Depends
Right.
how bad you are. Some of these things, but with these guys,
spontaneous
their problem
parts shifting is
isn't-
pretty serious.
They're trying to give up shifting. Their problem is coping with being a shifter in everyday life.
Right.
So
I feel like
they
he's
need
gone to
people-
like 5 meetings, so this is probably 2 or 3 weeks easy.
So
I think that's fine.
yeah, I mean, but yeah, it really depends on how bad he's coping with things. I think right now the family is very dysfunctional. I think as the family becomes more functional, as Meredith and Zara and Hammond and all of them come together as a family, he's going to need it less and less, right? But right now, I think he feels lonely. And
Well,
when he's
for
running
more
the
than
ship-
one reason.
They're at odds. They're going to have to come together as family. They're going to have to come together as team. And like I said, I kind of worry that we need to be careful about coming to that point organically.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be just they're at
It's
odds.
time, so now they got to all be friends.
Right, yeah.
Right. So, and we're getting close to a point where Wilhelm is going to need them to come together for him.
Yeah.
And so, like you had mentioned, it's time for Meredith to step up.
Right, yeah, I think she's going to be very get your shit together.
Right,
you know?
right. And I think that's exactly what has to happen is because Zara and Hammond are butting heads trying to play leader in a position where
I didn't intend for that, but I think that is what's happening.
it is happening. It's
Zara
just
versus
happened.
Hammond.
Yes.
Well, see, I don't
and
see-
I think that Meredith needs to step up and take that role and be like, no, both of you stop this shit right now.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't see it that way. I don't think Hammond wants to be a leader.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think he
just
does
don't think
either.
he wants her to be the leader.
He doesn't. No,
Well,
I don't even think that's it.
It's just
he
the
doesn't want to
egos.
be told what to
yeah,
do.
Yeah, I guess.
No, see,
it's the egos.
I'm
It is
coming.
the
I'm coming
egos.
from a different angle.
It's not that he doesn't want her to be the leader. I think I misspoke on that. It's that, yeah, she's right.
He doesn't.
He doesn't want to be told what
Want
to
to
do.
obey
He doesn't
somebody
want.
else's
He doesn't want to
direction.
feel like anybody else on the team is better than him.
Well, it's not just that though. But what I was saying is it might well be he's one of those people that feels like if no one else is stepping up, I will. But I don't want this role.
Right.
Why don't you step up and do the job?
And he feels like she's not. Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe.
So they're butting heads because
I
he
think
doesn't
that
feel like there's the
Zara-
leadership in place that needs to be there.
And Zara also doesn't play leader. I'll do it my damn self.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
that worked for no one. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
and I think that
so
then-
she's almost got,
It
and I don't want to
justifies
say
it.
arrogance, but I have that she feels like the weight of the world's on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And so she thinks I have to take care of all this myself. Everybody else is going to screw it up, and like she almost kind of takes on that. I'll just do it myself.
I think-
Whereas he is, and I feel like Hammond's backstory places him in more of a independent worker.
Yeah, you're right.
So he's used to working on his own.
Oh, yeah, he's the engineer.
She's used to working on her own.
Yeah.
And they're just not coming together in a cohesive way.
But you're right. What
And
both
I-
of you came up with justifies the other's outlook here, right?
Right.
I mean, because she is, I'll just do it myself. He feels like there's no leader. She's
Right.
not being a leader. He's
She's
right.
not. She's not.
But at the same time, he's not helping the situation.
Right. And we had almost kind
We
of
really need to write that in, though. I mean, it's
Yeah,
this has to be
It has
shown.
to be clear. Yeah, I think so
What
too.
does?
All this.
This getting worked out. Yeah,
Oh,
why
I mean,
it's working
yeah,
like this.
I think that we can definitely expand on what we've got so far. And I think that we are. We're specifically showing this struggle between these two.
Yeah.
Wilhelm is almost kind of backing off of the group.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to before. You were we kind of got off on this, and we can come back around to it. But when you were talking about that he's feeling lonely, there's multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the time period he's in and being gay. Being this tall, skinny guy, not a bad-looking guy, but awkward.
Right.
Okay. He's very reserved, so he's never comfortable anywhere.
And his
you know,
team and the closest
he's an
people he has
introvert.
to family are going at each other. They're
He's
distracted.
aware, and he's also erudite.
And at this
a smart
point-
person has great difficulty relating to anybody because there's very few people who can relate to him.
And at this point, other wares are going missing. So the few friends he does have are starting to disappear.
Right. So on multiple levels, he needs more than companionship, someone to understand him. And if this group gives him one dimension of that, it's more than he has.
This is becoming a bigger challenge than I thought because, I mean, we set out to do a comedy, right?
Yeah, but comedy comes
And
from conflict.
there's some very serious stuff in this. We are addressing some very serious
absolutely.
subject matter.
But
I
it
mean,
has to be there because these characters
Right.
have to be believable.
I'm not saying I think we should do this. This is something that we definitely owe it to the story
Sure.
to do this right. But yeah, it's a bigger challenge than I thought because I thought, it's gonna be fun and games. We're gonna be able to go in here, tell a lot of jokes. Here's a dick, here's a fart. But no,
Well, there's a place for
much
that.
more to it than that. You know, there
is much more, but also, I mean, all this backstory that we're creating for these characters, it doesn't have to go into the story. It just has to exist.
Yeah.
You know? So the thing is that
but
I think that this is something that we've already painted a picture with Meredith where she's almost holding herself back from the group. So she's kind of set herself apart. And she's taken them in, and she's afraid of being lonely. But I think that also she's afraid of losing somebody again.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed that, you know, within the past
good,
couple of years or recently, she lost her husband. And while she's afraid of being alone in this big house, and that's why she kind of pulled the team together, she's also held herself apart a bit, afraid of getting her heart broken again.
Right.
It's really
So I
not a
think
team.
that-
It's more of a firm. Because they're all answering calls separately as
Right.
under one group name, under one
Right.
company. So that might be something else to bring up, is
Right.
they're not a team. I mean, they really haven't established that at all.
And I think that's something that Robert has been kind of trying to do, is force them into these group jobs. So I think that Meredith is absolutely going to have to step up and kind of, you know, give up her little separation.
I think as the threat level
she's gonna have
rises...
to
Yeah, she has to
overcome.
stop being aloof. She has to definitely get involved and
Right,
be that.
and at the point when Wilhelm goes missing, she's going to have to realize, look, if I stay back, I'm still going to lose somebody.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get hurt. I'm still going to lose somebody I
Sure.
care about. And, you know, like, once that motivation is gone, she has no reason to not step up and say, we got to fix this.
Waiting around for the emotional growth that will feel more earned. And I don't want to force fit it, but I honestly do think that conflict through a bigger enemy is more likely to bring the team together.
No, I agree. I think
Although it's cheaper than the emotional growth that she needs to attain.
I don't think it's done there, right? I mean, they're willing to come together to do what it takes to save
No,
a
it's
friend.
the start. It's
right.
the start.
And from here, it's okay. Once things are you know, kind of coming back to normal or whatever, then it's, you know, all right,
gotta
we
be
got to
built on
actually
from
fix
there.
this.
Right,
We've got to
right.
actually do something about this because we came together for this, but what happens from here? We're just going to fall apart if we don't do something.
Absolutely.
You know, so no, I think it's good direction. So do we all have our objectives?
I'm just curious, like, after they defeat the big bad, do they go out for shawarma? Like, what's that scene look like?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll build to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you know
think I
you
got what I need.
Okay, so what's the chapter? Do we need the chapter after that, or are we gonna worry about that next week?
I believe that's yours, and I don't remember where we're going.
It is. Okay.
Is that the
so-
saving of Wilhelm? Is
Yeah.
that-
Ooh,
yeah.
good luck with that one.
Ooh, that's
So
gonna be
yeah,
tough.
you're the one who's going to have to bring
Oh, well, I
Meredith
did
to the
have
fold.
one thing I wanted to ask you about. In your third and fourth part there that we just went through, he returns to his office, and
Right.
his group is there.
Right.
Is that in his house? Is it some place?
You know,
like,
and that's something that
We did
Loki
talk
and
I felt like
had
it was a
kind of-
cave. I have no idea where he's at.
I know, and I mentioned the parlor kind of further in so that it was kind of like a house, but that is actually something that I addressed with Loki, and I was like, I don't know how to word that. He returned to his what? He returned where? And we didn't really
Okay, so that's open to
know.
rewrite when we figure that
Yeah,
out.
I mean, we got to plug that in.
Well, I'll
because
tell
I
you
don't
what.
know. Is he doing this at his home? Does he have a manor? Does he have like some kind of...
See, I don't know if you
I
should
kind
shit
of
where he
imagine
eats.
there are catacombs under London. There are catacombs under London.
That's what I'm figuring.
And I'm
yeah,
kind of
some
imagining it's down
dungeon-esque
there, but
abandoned
maybe
area.
maybe they are in a position to where they have a home with an entranceway into these catacombs or something like
Yeah,
that.
I brushed right over it. Upon returning, Desmond stormed into, so
Or
like,
maybe
yeah, I
like
didn't
an
even-
old part
he
of
does-
like some castle keep or something on his grounds that is no longer
Or an
maintained.
abandoned cathedral or something.
some
that's-
sort of abandoned
that's not bad.
something, yeah.
Well, cathedrals also have catacombs.
True. So, yeah, it's definitely something to work out.
Some sort of meeting place, yeah.
All right. Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good on my end.
Okay. Well, I
Good.
guess we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you.
Greetings, dames and knights. If you like what we do, follow us on Twitter at thedarkandstormyk1 or our website at thedarkandstormyknights.home.blog. Or you can rate us on Podbean, Google Play Music, or iTunes.